Y254. Imagine.
Welcome back. This is Y254 News Updates. We are talking about matters business, and it's Business Tuesday today. We are back, and in studio with me is Doreen Arange, my colleague, who has something more to discuss with us. Make sure that you interact with us on 22162, starting with the word news. Doreen, what do you have for us?
Being a Business Tuesday, we'll just be getting to understand business ideas that the youth can adopt, of course, to make them, earn a living, because oftentimes they blame it on employment, lack of employment. Some even get into crime. And of course, in studio tonight, I'm with my guest, Stanley Nyachai, who is a practicing lawyer as well as an MC. And today we were asking our viewers whether they prefer seeking employment or starting their own businesses. But just before we delve into this particular topic, I want just to understand from you that, in the beginning of this year, the president had actually promised, in one, of course, of his agendas, to create more job opportunities for the young people. Now, this is March, the third month of the year. Do you think this particular promise is taking effect?
Thank you, Doreen, for the opportunity to be here once again.
Yeah.
And the challenge of employment in Kenya is a difficult one, because a lot of our youth are hitting rock bottom, so to say. The president promised jobs. He did promise jobs in his first term. The previous president, Kibaki, promised 100,000 jobs created every year, and we are given figures on the government portal to say that this number of jobs are being created, and so on and so forth. The only job I can think at the top of my head that has been created, a new job, is a position of Cabinet Administrative Secretary, which has been created to award political appointees.
So in terms of the youth, you feel like this is just a promise that is normally given at the beginning of a particular year, or when a president takes office?
It's a very good catchphrase. We're going to create more jobs. We're going to create more jobs, and but we really tangibly it is a challenge. And why do I say this? Because the creation of jobs is not something that can just come up about. There needs to be an existing infrastructure for job creation, for enterprise to happen, and this cannot happen if there is no good governance. Because you see, the business of government is not to create employment directly into government. Not everybody can get employment in either a government office, in a parastatal, or something of that sort. Because if that was the case, that is what leads to our current situation now, where we have a ballooning wage bill of up to 54% of our gross domestic product going to paying our salaries. So we are paying more salaries than we are going to development, which is what will have created business opportunities for our youth to be able to sustain themselves.
All right.
So for us to be able to create business, I think we need to first also start with good governance and laying the infrastructure that is there, so that you can be able to have enterprise that is sustainable.
All right. And of course, probably we will be coming back to this particular question just to get to understand if it's taking effect and to what extent it has. But just coming back to our topic of discussion today, where we want to know whether actually young people prefer seeking employment or just starting their own businesses. One of the deterrents becomes the issue of capital. A young person would say, I want to start this business, but I don't have capital. So from your own perspective, of course, as a lawyer and as an MC, how can a young, what are the tips that you can give a young person on how to raise capital? Because most people really feel like they want to start their own businesses, but capital really becomes a challenge to them. So what can you say about that in terms of building capital for a particular business?
First of all, I would, my opinion is, and my observation over the years has been that there's a preference from the youth to seeking employment. Why? Because number one, employment.
So they prefer seeking employment as
exactly.
opposed to.
That has been the case, and employment is not for everybody. If we are all employed, then there's nobody who's going to come up with anything new, and that is why we need some people to be employed, and we need other people to be enterprising business, so that they can be able to invent things, so they can be able to push technology forward. If all of us are employed in 8 to 5, there's nothing new. We're just in a machine and just doing the regular things that need to be done. That said, I do understand the psychology behind it, because employment will give you that sort of job security. As a young person, you're 24 years old, you just come out of your parents' house, with a pay slip that at the end of the day you have your 6,000 shillings for a bed sitter in Rongai, and you know that you can be able to afford one or two things. businesses.
So how can they raise capital if they were to start a business? Because of course the way you're saying employment, most young people really just want to get employment because employment gives security in terms of I have a job, and of course at the end of the month I'll also have a salary, as opposed to a business which sometimes may fluctuate. But for those who really want to start their own enterprises, how can they raise capital for starting any business, regardless of how small it may be?
Doreen, I don't think there is a straightforward answer to that question, because the circumstances may vary from one individual youth to another.
All right.
But one thing also is to encourage the parents, the family. Every youth hopefully comes from a family, and it is good to encourage.
Of course they do.
Yes, but you know, life sometimes separates you from your family and whatnot. But I would like to encourage parents out there who are watching this program. If your young person is enterprising, let us encourage them, because you see, we're able to nurture these talents from a very early age. I emceed my first event, I think, when I was around 14 years old in my home church in Mombasa, Jesus Celebration Center. My former boss gave me the chance and said, oh, this kid can MC. And I emceed my first gig back then, and it's been something I've been doing as a side hustle ever since. So it's the first capital that you need is social capital. Who is going to give you that opportunity? And that is something that the youth find a challenge. You may have a bright idea, you take it to a corporate and you're looking for that capital, but nobody really gives you that confidence that you're able to do this.
So family may be a good place to start raising your capital?
So family is always a good place to begin in terms of social capital. And also the government is now more and more placing emphasis on the youth and providing opportunities for them. That's how we have affirmative action measures. You have the Youth Development Fund, you have the Women Enterprise, you know, you have all these things that are targeted towards ensuring that our youth are able to access funding for their particular businesses. So it is a challenge to a youth to make sure they're organized. You know, if it's a group, if it's a community service organization, get yourself organized in terms of the necessary paperwork. It's becoming easier to do business as a young person and to access capital either from enterprise funds or from microfinance or from banks. It's just a matter of getting yourself.
So of course, hope to the ones who want to start their own businesses, their own enterprises, not just want to always seek employment, because the way you're saying, we have enterprises, we have family, we have microfinances that can actually fund them to start whatever thing they want to start.
Precisely.
Okay, and now just moving forward, another factor, when we look at when this year was starting, we had a lot of crime rates, and especially it was coming from the young people, stealing here and there. Can you attribute this crime rate to a high rate of unemployment in the country?
It is, Doreen. Every time you experience a surge in crime, the quickest solution is to look at unemployment in the area. And that is why we had wonderful projects like Kazi kwa Vijana and NYS, which I was actually in a particular discussion with a few friends in my group, and some people think it's an outdated idea, but it was a brilliant idea, and the late Dr. Griffiths did a wonderful job with it. If you look at the people from our older generation, they seem to have a certain mettle and a certain grit that some of our young people do not have because of these extra life lessons that they learned from NYS. But going forward, yes, sometimes, you know, there's crime of opportunity. Because when you see a young man stealing a cabbage worth 20 shillings because he has really not eaten for 3-4 days.
And he doesn't have a job where
and
he
doesn't
can get
have
money.
a job, and you know, and he has maybe he has a young pregnant wife, or you look up at a street child who's about 16 and he has to take care of 4 street children who are his siblings. You really empathize with that situation. It is a crime that he has gotten himself involved with, but of necessity, not to encourage it. But we also then have this other crime of affluence, you know, where young people want to cut corners because they want to live a certain kind of lifestyle, which is another cause.
So someone just steals and engages in crime for the sake of it?
Exactly. And this kind of crime happens even at your place of employment. This is where now we have tenderpreneurs. Quite a lot. You know, people who want to cut corners in your first year of employment. You decide to become enterprising and economical with the truth, and, you know, inflated invoices and that kind of thing, so that you can make the extra money.
Just to interject a bit before you continue, then with what you're saying, then does that then warrant us to say that the high crime rate is as a result of unemployment? Because the way you're saying that we have the affluence where some people just feel the need, you know, to want to steal, probably just to benefit themselves, not because they really don't have the money to get whatever it is that they want to get. So can we really attribute a high crime rate to unemployment?
Not yes and no. Yeah, no, yes, because sometimes, you know, this youth with no meaningful employment, they decide to go into crime to be able to fend for themselves.
Yes, yes.
But I'll go again back to the issue of affluence.
Okay.
And what do I mean by this? Society has shown us that you can steal money and become
Through
a
the
governor
corruption.
somewhere, you know? You can do one or two shady things, and instead of getting punished, you actually get accepted in society. So these are the kind of wrong examples that we set for children, and it is no longer so important to work hard in school to get, you know, we're told education is the key to success. It's no longer the case. It's just one of the keys. Nowadays, there's so many ways to success, which is an unfortunate analogy. So we need to go back to the issue of laying a proper governance infrastructure that will create a conducive environment for enterprise to prosper. Because if I, Stanley, am an MC and I don't give inflated invoices, whereas somebody else will be able to do that so that he can be able to get the business from a company, you know, I get discouraged if nobody is going to give me the business as a young MC, because I will not say that the stage is 200,000 when in reality it was 120,000. You know, so that kind of honesty and business practices is what we need to encourage and foster as a society.
Which at the moment is not actually there.
It is a problem. It is a problem in our current society, as in theft has been so inculcated in our culture.
Like it's becoming a thing.
It's become a thing, and it's affecting youth who are really trying to do business. And also, I think we also need to consider the issue of technology as a third aspect. We have so many youth who've come up with very enterprising ideas. There's a young, and I was discussing this in my WhatsApp group today. There's a young kid somewhere who who managed to make some sort of helicopter or drone in Western. Up to date, Doreen, the government has done nothing. There's a Department of Science and Information and Technology. They've done nothing.
Doing anything.
You know, you hear a kid has come up with a motor, or you know, just some interesting invention.
This may be the reasons why people just want to feel the need to want to seek employment and not start their own things, their own enteprises.
Exactly,
because of lack of support.
There's lack of support from the government, which has the primary responsibility to foster enterprise through you know, support programs and that thing. So if you keep on coming up with these brilliant ideas and they're not supported, they're not noticed, sometimes as a young person you get discouraged and say, what, to hell with it.
Then you just run to crime or something else.
Let me run to crime, or let me just look for a regular 8 to 5 job, you know. You either become a conductor in a matatu, or you become a clerk somewhere, just as long as you're able to meet your basic needs. But then it crushes that enterprising spirit of a young person, which is what we need for this country to go forward.
So basically what you're saying is that the high unemployment may not just be attributed to the crime rate may not just be attributed to unemployment, but also the affluence.
Exactly.
Okay, so just moving forward, right now we have 39.1% of Kenyans unemployed. The number is quite a significant number. So are we looking forward to a future whereby this number might reduce to maybe a 10, 20, or are we looking to a future whereby this number is likely to increase? What do you think?
I'm not an economics professor, so I will hazard an intelligent guess. And I think if we do not rectify ourselves, we are looking at bleak days ahead. And why do I say this? As a country, we are borrowing, we're in more debt than we've ever been before. We're talking about 4.3 trillion
and every child
shillings.
born has a debt on his head.
It is amazing. So you come into this world, even before you know what is happening, there's debt hanging on your head.
And quite a lot.
And quite a lot, and it increases. So at what point will we ever set aside money to encourage the youth to become enterprising? We're no longer investing in such kind of spaces. You know, we've left this idea of enterprise and encouraging enterprise for the youth. We've left it to corporates. You have people like the Sam, who's doing NILAB, you know. And we've left it to such kind of individuals and corporates, and they're able to do what they're able to do within their own little spheres of influence. But the primary responsibility should have belonged to the government, because which they're not doing. So my challenge again goes back to government. We need to be careful to what we're doing to our children. It's becoming so hard to get a job. And
pretty hard.
It's becoming pretty hard. You know, you hear stories of somebody with a master's degree selling mangoes on the street.
They're still
selling mangoes
looking for jobs.
Selling mangoes is okay. But if you have a master's degree and you're not able to get a job because that job has been given to somebody from somebody's village, you know, it is a problem. So
and it's a sad reality that we still have that particular thing in this country.
Exactly. We suffer from a lack of meritocracy, where employment opportunities and opportunities for enterprise are not on merit.
Okay.
Yeah, so even young people who have brilliant ideas, sometimes their ideas are not even rewarded, so it discourages them and they no longer are able to pursue enterprise, and they end up involving themselves in things that are not very meaningful.
So basically, if nothing is done, you're looking at a future whereby these percentages are likely to go up.
It is a scary reality.
Okay. Yeah. So just going back to our previous question where we were saying about how the government was promising jobs to young people. What do you think the government can do to ensure that when they promise, they actually deliver? Because it's a recurrent thing, the way you're saying from Kibaki's time to his second term, now we are in President Uhuru's term, and basically we cannot see any tangible thing happening with these promises. So what do you think the government should do, or which mechanism should they put in place that when they promise such kind of things, because it's vital that when they promise such kind of things, they actually, even if it's not to a higher percentage, but at least they deliver?
There needs to be somebody in leadership who actually has a political goodwill to follow through. And I know that at the highest level there's a presidential delivery unit where they're able to see and countercheck. We promised this, have we been able to deliver? I'd like to remind the President of the Republic, and I'll keep mentioning because it is the highest office that you can go to. He told the people from NYS, the recruits, that they're going to get jobs at the army. And he instructed the army and he instructed the regular police to ensure that NYS recruits, cadets, get assimilated. This is the second time he has made that announcement. I had it 2 weeks ago. I had it at the previous pass out. So if the President of the Republic is saying give jobs to NYS and it is not happening, how do you expect to provide jobs for youth if the President's own directives cannot be followed? So first off, the people that we spend a lot of money on NYS. I will not even talk about the corruption scandals, because you're going to have it will be a different thing. But the actual cost of taking a graduate through the NYS at Gilgil or whatever it is a lot. And then after 6 months you're trained and you don't get assimilated anywhere, it's a problem. So that's one thing that you can be able to do. Then we go to public-private partnership. I think this is also in the office of the President. We need to be able to bring our people together, our corporate sector, organizations such as the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We have students. I am a lawyer. Basically what lawyers do is that after your 4 years undergraduate, you go to the Kenya School of Law, you do your advocates training program. After that you get admitted to the bar upon passing of your exams. In between you have something called pupillage, which is sort of a mandatory internship that you do for 6 months. I can tell you for a fact it is a struggle that you have a law degree and you have whatnot, but even getting that pupillage at a law firm is a problem. It's also a struggle. It's also a struggle.
Okay, so basically what you're saying to ensure that this particular promises that they put in place takes effect is to put right structures and make these systems work.
And ensure that government and corporate sit together and say, look, we have this ballooning problem of youth unemployment. What are we going to be able to do? Are there subsidies that can be offered to companies to ensure that they employ youth who have come straight from university, and also apart from offering employment guaranteed based on merit, there should also be a way to be able to provide support for enterprise.
Okay. Stanley, we hear you, but as we conclude this discussion, maybe I'll just like you to tell us, probably in about 30 seconds, what activities can the youth engage themselves in to earn a satisfactory living, whereby they don't have to engage in crime, whether there's no employment or it becomes a bit hard to get capital to start a business, but what can they do to just earn a satisfactory living? Finally, as we wind up this discussion,
I will point to what I'm familiar with, agribusiness. In a few months back, I was in Mombasa County Government and the Department of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. So I know, and this is a problem whereby most of our youth think that agriculture is not cool, you know. We've left farming to our parents, grandmothers, you know. Most people today cannot tell the difference. Most young kids cannot even tell you the difference between a cabbage and a turnip. So So we need to get back to agribusiness because it was our highest income earner as a country. We still have the most fertile soil. We still have the ability to be able to feed ourselves and to ensure there's food security and even be able to export. So it is always an opportunity. Agriculture, livestock and fisheries. I think that's always the way to go for youth. So that is one of the things I'd like to encourage us to get into.
Right. So if employment becomes a bit of a tussle and getting capital becomes a bit hard, they can go to agribusiness, try to do something, and they can always earn a good and honest living from that.
You can always earn an honest living from rearing your rabbits in Kakamega. You don't have to come to Nairobi, you know, struggling left, right and center. Wherever you are as a young person in Kenya, whatever talent it is that you have, whatever space that you have, that little farm that your parents have left for you,
you can do something with it.
Do something with it, earn yourself a honest living, and maisha inasonga mbele.
Okay, Sandy, we hear you. So just to bring back my colleague Ram, and of course you are in employment, but would you have rather preferred starting your own business, or maybe some years from now, would you prefer starting your own business or just stick to employment for the rest of your life?
I think from hearing him speak,
you feel challenged?
He just said that he's not like an economic professor, but I think he's a motivational speaker. I would like to start my own business. After hearing him speak,
he speaks also of agribusiness and agriculture, so he might just want to go that way. So for you,
it makes I would like to enter into my own personal business. And by the way, just to ask one more question, when we walk around the country, you will realize that there are many businesses that youths have started that they left unfinished. So someone starts a business, leaves it, starts another one, leaves it, and you will do research and find out that there are many reasons that makes them leave these businesses, but these are the reasons why they still end up getting unemployed. What factors do you think can be used to solve such things? Starting a business and then leaving it, how do you solve that?
Thank you for your question, Ram. And this, I would like to point out to the viewers may remember from the last discussion we had the last time I was here, we talked about micro enterprise, and that was one of the problems and the challenges that the youth are facing. It is the lack of determination and persistence to follow through an idea to its logical end. We are so used to nowadays we're used to the culture of get rich quickly, you know.
Start something, get rich quickly, make
chap
money.
chap namna hii, kadil, katenda, kata come through, and you know, that is it. But we're no longer as patient as our older brothers and sisters. Lack of consistency. That is a challenge that we have, that we need to give to ourselves. If you decide, you know, I'm going to go into a matatu business, be faithful to it.
And stick to it.
Put in the hours, success will come eventually. Yes.
Right, and of course you have to wrap Business Tuesday tonight, and many thanks, you know, for Stanley for coming in and shedding some light. Ram has really been challenged to start a business. I don't know what I'll be starting, but I think I'll. Okay. All right, and that's all we had for you tonight on Business Tuesday. Many thanks for your time and for watching. My name is Doreen Arange.
And my name is Ram Abuko. Thank you for tuning to Y254 News. We wind up. Have a good night.
Me, I think yangu itakuwa ya quilts. Think your quilts tutai revisit.